People say the scariest stories are born in forgotten asylums, or passed down through generations as eerie folklore. But what if the real horror doesn't lurk in shadows or myths? What if it breathes behind surgical masks and walks brightly lit corridors? Not in a crumbling mansion or a haunted forest, but in a place you trust with your life, where the people sworn to heal become something else entirely. This is the true story of Athena Marie Sidlar, an aide at Allentown State Hospital in Pennsylvania, who crossed a line so bizarre and dangerous, it left the public and professionals in disbelief. What began as a psychiatric worker with a troubled past quickly turned into a story of manipulation, injury, and an institution's shocking negligence. In 2008, Athena Sidlar was hired as a psychiatric aide at Allentown State Hospital. On paper, she was an ordinary hire, but beneath the surface, there were warning signs, the deep ones. Unlike most hires, Sidlar came with serious baggage. She had a well-documented history of mental illness, bipolar disorder to be specific, and she wasn't shy about her struggles with self-harm. In fact, her methods were extreme and deeply concerning. She had a known pattern of swallowing dangerous foreign objects, nails, wires, pieces of metal, items that could easily cause internal bleeding, punctured organs, or death. It wasn't a one-time cry for help. It was a repeated compulsive behavior. These were acts that required emergency medical attention and psychiatric intervention. Despite this, hospital management brought her on board in September of that year. She was cleared to work directly with psychiatric patients. The hiring process appeared to overlook or ignore her mental health history, even though it was accessible and documented. Only 4 months into her employment, in January 2009, Sidler committed an act that crossed every professional and ethical line when she engaged in behavior that would soon make headlines. One day, she brought nails into the facility, not by accident, but on purpose. She approached an 18-year-old patient who was already vulnerable and in a fragile mental state under her care, and became the victim of a bizarre and dangerous interaction. Sidler began speaking to her about a method of feeling better. According to Sidler, that method was swallowing nails. She didn't just talk about it, she demonstrated it. She showed the patient how to do it by swallowing nails herself. Witnesses later said that the patient seemed to believe this experiment might relieve her inner distress. Encouraged or pressured by Sidler, the patient swallowed 4 nails. Whether delusional, reckless, or intentionally manipulative, her actions caused serious and life-threatening harm. The nails didn't simply pass through the digestive system. They were embedded and had to be removed surgically. The hospital only discovered what had happened after the patient began showing severe symptoms. Authorities moved quickly. Sidler was arrested shortly afterward and charged with aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and risking a catastrophe. In August 2009, she entered a guilty plea to charges involving negligence and risk to others. During sentencing, she admitted to her actions, apologized in court, and spoke about her ongoing struggle with mental illness. The court sentenced her to 2 years of probation. She was also permanently barred from seeking employment in any psychiatric or healthcare facility again. Just a few months after the incident, Sidler herself was hospitalized again, after swallowing other metal objects and nails as well. This further confirmed how serious her mental health issues were, and how poorly suited she was for a role in patient care. But the legal system wasn't the only place this story left a mark. The victim's father filed a lawsuit against Allentown State Hospital, calling out the institution's failure to screen or supervise their staff. The lawsuit alleged gross negligence, not just in Sidler's hiring, but in the lack of oversight that allowed her to bring dangerous objects into a secure psychiatric unit. Other employees had reportedly noticed Sidler acting strangely, talking about self-harm and making bizarre statements, but did nothing. At the core of the lawsuit lay a disturbing question. How is someone with a known history of high-risk behavior, particularly involving the ingestion of harmful objects, permitted to work directly with vulnerable psychiatric patients? There were no safeguards, no review, no internal checks. The hospital took no meaningful action, and by the time the consequences became clear, the damage had already been done. In court documents, her behavior was described as utterly unfit for someone working in direct care with psychiatric patients. The story did help fuel public criticism of state-run mental institutions and their screening processes. After the case, the hospital came under scrutiny, but there's little public evidence that sweeping reforms were made. A year after the incident, Allentown State Hospital eventually shut down in 2010. As part of a statewide effort to reduce the number of public psychiatric institutions in Pennsylvania. To this day, no further criminal charges or public sightings of Sidler have been reported. She has remained out of the spotlight since her sentencing. There's no indication that she passed away or became associated with any paranormal stories, despite what some internet rumors might suggest. This is not a ghost story. It's a real one, with real consequences. Whether her case directly contributed to that closure remains unconfirmed, but the timing is hard to ignore. In a place built to help the broken, a broken system let one woman's pain become another person's nightmare, and that's something no hospital should ever allow.